Ahoy hoy gang, if this is your first time with us, welcome, and if you're joining us from a previous video, hey, we love to see it, and I hope you're doing well. It's the season. This is the season I always gave some leeway because of the time it came out in. It was definitely a season that suffered because of a global event. As such, I am a little bit more lenient, but what are the top 5 episodes of a season that already had to deal with so much and largely isn't as good as the seasons around it? Well, there's only one way to find out, so here it is, the top 5 episodes of Season 16! Number 5, Little Bonnie Ramirez. Ironically, I think this is Roger Needs Dick, but done better, because it's Roger trying to keep Francine impressed and on the edge of her seat, and then he just completely goes way over the top with it. You know, the family gets Francine's actor from the reenactment of her crimes of kidnapping little Bonnie Ramirez, and it's fun. It's absolutely fun. But the thing that gets me the most, and I've said this before, but it's the unsolved mysteries, and he goes, and the kid that can draw Manny from Modern Family perfectly from memory, even though he's never seen the show. It's just such a line that it makes me celebrate the creation of the English language, you know? It's one of those things, like, you have to wonder how they came up with that, because it is an original joke, and I appreciate every level of it completely. And I mean, Francine's great in it, and I adore that Roger is struggling to keep up with all of his personas and has to go back and forth, and I think that's something that really makes this episode and the show special, is that not only do they give Roger these personas so that he can go out in public, but they've set up a whole world where he's like 800 people, and they all have different experiences, different lives. He has a persona that was kidnapped as a child. Like, there's so many levels to what Roger can do, and I think the more fanciful they make him, the wilder the show can become. And it's just, this season is going to be the wildest season. This is season 16. It came out and was developed during a very rough time in the world, and that's fine. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot to really love about Little Bonnie Ramirez. It's dark, but not twisted. It's funny in all the best ways, while still reminding you that, yeah, Roger's just a wee bit unhinged. Number 4, Shakedown Steve. Rest in power to the absolute legend that is Bill Walton. He had sadly passed a few days before I recorded this, and I don't know, full disclosure, I'm not a basketball person, so the first time I heard of Bill Walton was in this episode, and his performance was absolutely dynamite. I loved it. I also love that it's a Jeff and Steve episode because Steve feels like he needs a brother. And I love the way they bond. I love that they actually have an adventure together, and it's great. Also, just another great episode with Gary Anthony Williams in it, who, I don't know, every time I hear his voice, I grew up with Malcolm in the Middle, so whenever I hear his voice, it just sounds so familiar to me, I guess. So it's always fun. I love him. I think he's a wonderful actor, and I loved hearing him as the leader of the Nitrous Mafia. I've been to more than a few EDM concerts. I have perused wares, I have interacted with Wooks, and it's just this whole experience of the Fish concert tours is so lived. It is so obvious that the people that wrote this have either talked to or have experienced EDM culture and people that go to EDMs pretty frequently. And I think that's wonderful. I think it is just so great that they have these honest lived-in adventures that they manage to make so extreme. Like the B story of the Smiths just getting super comfortable in an escape room and refusing to leave. Just making the entire escape room company's lives hell because they're not going to leave anytime soon. Why would they solve anything when they have this beautiful torture table? And it's just, you know what? That is good, dumb Smith family. And if Steve was there, he would have cracked the safe room in a matter of seconds. It's a B story that only works if Steve's not around, and they gave Steve a perfect excuse for somewhere else he had to be. And I don't know, there's a smart and clever charm to doing that. It's something that you don't think about until it happens, and it made me appreciate the episode as a whole when I was like, well, come on now, Steve would have figured this out, but oh right, he's touring with Fish selling grilled cheese with Jeff. Got it. It's like, you know what? Okay. Alright, you explained it away when you didn't have to, you get props for that. Number 3, The Wonder Cabinet. I still can't get over the fact that Andrew WK is in this episode. But like, we also get the return of Patton Oswalt. Yvette Nicole Brown is in this episode. JB Smoove. It is a stacked episode full of quality, and it's easily right up there. Obviously, it's in my top 5. I've gotta love it. But the Wonder Cabinet is another really good, surreal idea. And I don't know, I'm a sucker for like a radio station story. Again, I worked in broadcast a good amount of years. I have been the guy that hangs out in a radio station until like 4 a.m. because I'm monitoring, making sure stuff isn't going down. And there is a charm to showcasing the death of radio in a way. And it's just from the candy man who's just absolutely miserable because of the candy and his wife, to the radio and Hagfish, and then Steve opening his third eye. That's all incredible, and it is a wonderful journey for Steve, much like Bazooka Steve, where he's just doing sort of his own thing, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that this is a growth for Steve episode. And I appreciate even more that the B story ties into the A story, and it's literally just Roger driving the bang bus, hoping that he can get back there and get in on the action. It feels like a Charlie Day character in It's Always Sunny. Like, it feels like an Always Sunny plot, like the gang make a bang bus. And it's just, it works. It has so much charm on so many different levels. And I love that Stan genuinely loves Steve. Like, he's willing to do all this research. He's willing to do anything to get his boy back, even opening his own mind's eye, even willing to push himself past the normal mental levels. And that's, you know, it's something that American Dad does really, really well. Sure, characters may not get along, you know, there's episodes like Mind Struggle where there is a family war, there is conflict, but the family never openly hates one another, and they actively support each other a lot of the time. The family loves each other. And I know that's very, very shallow, but it's a very important thing to always maintain, that the Smiths never actively hate each other. If you cross that line, it is so hard to get back to it. It is so hard to not just go way off into the distance. So to have Stan always love Steve, even if he's embarrassed by him, is an important factor. And then having them at the end of the episode just appreciating Chimdale, I feel like is a perfect accent to an otherwise just fantastic episode. Number 2, Hot Scoomp. Haley, Francine, and Roger join a fitness cult. Like, on the surface, it's not that great, but I think the execution is what makes the episode as a whole just absolutely shine. From opening with "Journalism is dead, so here's a bunch of pictures to make your listicles better," which, as a journalism major, I can attest that that's hauntingly accurate. But again, these jokes are made by people that are aware. They have followed current events, and they are willing to make aware jokes without it having to be topical. Journalism, as we know it, is dead, and it's going to stay dead. So we have to constantly evolve. We have to constantly adapt, which is why most people get their news from shorts or online. So it's interesting. It's interesting that they are aware of that. But on top of that, you also get just wonderful jokes. You get Francine being a leader and a member of cults, and everyone gushes about her scrapbook. It's just, there's so much charm there. And then Roger, of course, is just a blind follower. And again, it's another great dumb Haley episode, which I think that kind of really shows that she's Stan's daughter. The fact that she has dumb episodes like, "Hey, where's this nice butt going? Let me see what's going on over here." I think that's great for her. There are episodes like Genevieve Vance where she is absolutely passionate and she wants to make a change. And then there's episodes like Hot Scoomp that shows that she's flawed just like everybody else. And, you know, they always mention HG. They never really say hologram until the end when you're like, oh, hologram. That makes sense. Boy, howdy, I drank the dumb idiot juice today. Whoa, look at me. I shouldn't be allowed to operate heavy machinery. But it is great. I love this episode. And obviously, I love it for the conclusion. I love the guy sitting on the toilet, eating his oysters. It's like, oh, I shouldn't put the shells back in with the rest of them. Put me back on the toilet. Let me die like a man. Let me die with some dignity. It's like, I love that. I know a lot of people are disgusted by that end of the episode, but I think it sells me. It sells the whole idea. It is necessary. I could not imagine this episode without that end scene. It is the perfect clincher to an otherwise just absolutely stellar episode that has no B story because it just doesn't need it. Number 1, Dr. Sunderson Sun Suckers. I could sit here and I could try and explain why I love Dr. Sunderson Sun Suckers so much, and I don't think I'll ever really be able to get it across. It's much like Rabbit Ears, it's a formative episode for me. I remember watching it and just being absolutely enchanted. Because on the one side, you have Haley and Jeff legitimately trying to help Roger's persona bring clean energy to Langley. You have him actively trying to help, and it's great. And then, you know, he takes out all the power plants and starts causing just absolute destruction and devastation. And that's fun in its own way. It's very interesting to see Haley actually have this sort of remorse, see this, oh, I should not have encouraged this Roger. He takes things way too far. And it's great because, yeah, she's not wrong for wanting to help him, but also, yeah, Roger's gonna take things way to the nines. Even, you know, Bonnie Ramirez earlier in this season. It's great. Then, of course, you have the B story, which is probably the most unsuspenseful yet captivating idea for a B story they've ever done, and it's literally just Stan, Steve, and Klaus wondering who's been taking the TV listing guides. Who's been taking the TV guides? This episode came out in like 2019. What? Who was using TV guides? Who was using newspapers? And that's sort of part of the absurdity, because at the end of it, it's Stan. He's been stealing not only their TV guides and hiding them, but he's taken the entire neighborhood's TV guides and hiding them. He's been hoarding them, and it's for no purpose whatsoever. I don't know. It's just, that's the charm. They have this wild episode where you have Principal Lewis just going, end of days again, and that's great. That's wonderful, because it's coupled with who's taking the TV guides? Where are the TV guides? People need to be asking, where's Poochie when Poochie's not on screen? It's wonderful. Yeah, Dr. Sunderson Sun Suckers it hits different. And I think it's mostly due to the vocal performances, where I know I talk a lot about Seth MacFarlane, but Rachel McFarlane is also equally talented. Her and Jeff Fisher are fantastic, and they really shine through in this episode. And there we have it, folks. That's season 16. Ultimately, yeah, even though it had everything against it, even though it came out in 2020, I genuinely think season 16 is a really okay season. It's not great. It's not like season 15 or even season 17, but there is stuff to appreciate here. Between the Wonder Cabinet and Hot Scoop, I actually found it was not as hard to come up with a top 5 as I thought it was going to be for this season. Anyway, what are your top 5 episodes of the season? Anything you think I was right on, wrong on? Let me know in the comments below. Season 16 was, yeah, there's still stuff to appreciate. Now, granted, plenty to dislike, plenty of nothing episodes. Feel free to check out the full season review. But yeah, no, and next season we get a perfect return to form, which just goes to show season 16 was a blip, not the new standard. And if you want to support the channel, make sure to join our Patreon or membership groups. $2 a month, and you can support the channel for new videos, as well as get early access to new videos before everyone else, and be featured on this wonderful list here. Woo! That'll do it for us. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay strong. Keep fighting. Know I always believe in you, and you will get through this. And no matter what, stay classy, San Diego. That's going to do it for us here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time when we jump into Season 17!